In what capacity are you acting at the moment? Is it Councillor first, Environment Minister second?
Well, a fairly jaundiced introduction in the first instance, Jim, and I would like the BBC to deal with this impartially in the first instance. And I have sought to deal with it impartially in terms of being an Environment Minister. In terms of the Boundary Commissioner's report, the Boundary Commissioner had a limited scope in terms of how he could look at things. And the Boundary Commissioner hadn't the ability to take into issues relating to civic needs, to community linkages and so forth, that I as the Environment Minister can. In the instance of Dunmurry, and this isn't some gerrymander which happens to bring Edwin Poots votes, because he doesn't stand in that area for the council. It isn't a gerrymander that will bring in the DUP considerable votes, because I think it accounts for about 200 votes for the DUP in the Lisburn council area out of around 17,000. But there was 1,100 people in that community who said they wanted to remain part of Lisburn City Council when it never amalgamated with Castlereagh. For whatever reason, the Commissioner chose to take it out. If you look at the Belfast constituencies, and the reason that there's only a problem in this particular area is because all of the councils moved in their totality. The only councils that were affected by this change in terms of not being broken up was Lisburn, Castlereagh, in association with what was added to Belfast. But if you look at Belfast, all of West Belfast is in Belfast City Council. Part of North Belfast isn't, part of South Belfast isn't, part of East Belfast isn't, and a bit of Lagan Valley is in West Belfast. That bit of Lagan Valley happens to be Dunmurry, so it's different lines from what actually exists for the Westminster boundaries. So there's a whole series of reasons why this shouldn't happen. Mark was with me on site. I showed him the boundary, identified the boundary that I put forward, which was a far stronger, more definable boundary. 1,100 people wanting it, 4 political parties out of 5 requesting me to do this. Very far from a gerrymander.
Okay, but Mark, you were with Edwin Poots, so perhaps you have some further issues you could explore.
Well, I mean, I suppose the argument of those who are making the criticism of gerrymandering, and it's basically nationalists, have been that whilst you might not be gaining votes, and you say that there's only 200 at the most DUP votes that you'd be gaining, that this is a sort of clever manoeuvre to ensure that Belfast does not go green, that you're effectively taking a nationalist seat into Unionist-controlled Lisbon and Castlereagh in order to try and ensure that the balance remains in Belfast. Is that not the case?
No, well, look, Dunmurry never had a particular association with Belfast. And I heard Alistair MacDonald making the ludicrous claim yesterday that Dunmurry was always part of South Belfast. It was never part of South Belfast. It has been Lagan Valley for years. Before the 1973 council boundaries were drawn up, it was part of the old Lisburn Urban Council. So this has never been an area that was associated with Belfast, and the people from Dunmurry look to Lisburn. I think the people from Trimble and Polelas do look to Belfast, and certainly the case that the Commissioner makes is much clearer there. A lot of those people would have originated in inner city Belfast and moved out to that area. Dunmurry is a long established community with its associations very clearly with Lisburn. No political advantage for me, and no financial advantage as such for Lisburn City Council either. It's a fairly small rate base that will be associated with it.
But could there be an advantage for unionism if you restrict the number of nationalist wards going into the new Belfast City Council?
Well, obviously, you could do a whole lot of things if you wanted to do that there. And there's, huge areas around Dundonald which you could have put in if you'd really desired to do that, if you wanted to engage in an out-and-out gerrymander. What I have done is responded to community needs, and the community have identified where they wish to be. The community on a cross-community basis has done that. There's nothing which is of particular benefit to me or to my political party or to Lisburn Castlereagh Council as a consequence of it. It's what the community want, and it's what the other parties want.
What about the other specific charges that you've redrawn the boundary around, for instance, say Forestside Shopping Centre, to keep that within the Castlereagh Lisburn Council area, meaning that Belfast City Council doesn't benefit then from those rates?
The redrawing of the boundary in that particular area is around the Castlereagh Council offices. And again, the Commissioner couldn't take those issues into account because it didn't fall within his remit. But community service is something that is very important. Whenever you're amalgamating two councils and you take the headquarters of one council out of it, that's a very strange situation.
Does it just happen to include the massive shopping centre across the road, though?
Well, they're basically together and beside each other. So the one goes with the other in that respect. But as well as that, we're going to have to engage in some negotiation process with Belfast City Council which potentially would be asking of them £15 million. As a consequence of that then you're going to have a design and build process for the new Lisburn Castlereagh Council to accommodate the staff. All of that poses huge difficulties. In any event, all of this was likely to be subject to a judicial review challenge had it went through under the previous Commissioner's proposals, so it wasn't going anywhere. I can say another thing in relation to all of this, because I have my doubts whether Sinn Féin want to move forward with the reform of local government, because the reorganisation bill, which deals with community planning, which deals with the Ombudsman, which deals with all of the probity issues relating to councillors, has been sitting for 5 months waiting to go out to public consultation. In June, Sinn Féin highlighted the issues. We responded to them. It took them 3 months to come back to us on those issues. They highlighted something else. Again, we responded within days. It's taken a further 2 months for them to come back.
Well, it's just, so what you're saying, it's not just about a boundary around Belfast and Lisburn, that there are still key outstanding issues. If this thing isn't resolved this week, you're suggesting that the NIO would pretty much have to call elections to the 26 councils next year if you don't get this nailed down before the end of the year.
Well, what Paul Goggins made clear to me a couple of months ago was that he would have to go ahead with elections in May next year if we weren't able to demonstrate that we could deliver for May 2011. Now, as far as I can see, the timescales are such as that I need to be moving this forward in this session of the Assembly. The 9th of December, I think, is the last sitting of the Assembly. So I need to get this through the Executive to put it to the Assembly, and that's the timescale that I'm up against.
Given that there has been this accusation conflict of interest from your critics, would you not have been in a stronger position if you had stepped down as a councillor on day one when you got the environment job?
I don't think I would, because ultimately I'm a member for Lagan Valley, and this affects Lagan Valley as such because the people of Dunmurry are residents of Lagan Valley. I can only be a minister by being an MLA.
But this is to do with councils, and you're a member of one of the councils involved.
I can't step down as an MLA and still be a minister. So therefore there's always going to be those issues, and there always will be issues where politics comes back to affect local people, and wider decisions will affect people in a local community, which may be a local community that you represent. So in all of that, I have to make a decision in the next few weeks as to whether we build an energy for waste incinerator at Glenavy. That's in my constituency. I have to make those decisions. That is the position that you're put in. I put myself before the public as to whether I've dealt with these things fairly. If anybody wants to investigate them further, I'm happy for them to investigate them further, because I have a clear conscience in all that I've done.
Okay. Sorry, we'll have to leave it there and go into the chamber, but thank you very much, Edwin Poots, for joining us.